Well, it's a beautiful Tuesday night in Regina where the sun is shining and the wind is gusting as we are set to get our first taste of this season's bitter rivalry between the Bombers and the Riders. It's the back-to-back Grey Cup champions against a team they had to go through to get there. Not necessarily the two teams we're going to see in the regular season. A lot of guys here fighting for a job tonight.
So excited that we're playing some football. Preseason action. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers in Game 2 of the preseason. Saskatchewan Game 1. All eyes on the backup quarterback position for both teams. For the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Drew Brown has worked his way into the conversation as the number 2. He's going to compete against Dakota Prukop. And for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, the starter tonight will be Mason Fine, but we will see Jake Gulagala and Troy Williams in the second half. Again, good battles for that backup quarterback position on both teams.
Definitely a few storylines that we'll continue to keep tabs on as we work our way through the evening. The Riders, of course, will play again on Friday out in BC. We saw a little bit of Mason Fine last season, ended up dressing as the backup in those playoff games. And we'll see what he's able to bring to the table here tonight for the Riders. Man, it's great to be back, isn't it? I know it's a Tuesday night and it's preseason, but I am excited to be here. And Neil will kick it away to get things started. The Bombers chose the ball, and now they will bring it back all the way outside the 30, almost to the 35 on the return. And that is where we will get our first look here at the quarterback for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. As you mentioned, Drew Brown trying to get a job.
Yeah, Zach Galaris is the starting quarterback in Winnipeg. He's not going to dress for either game, not dressing again tonight, so will not take a snap in the preseason this year. Didn't really hurt him. There was no preseason last year, and they won the championship. And Drew Brown, as I mentioned, has showed well through camp and in preseason game number 1. So he has started to work his way into that composition because Dakota Prukop, of course, he has some CFL experience. We'll see him tonight too.
Yeah, the wind gusting here up to about 50, anywhere between 40 and 50 kilometers tonight. So we'll see how that factors into this preseason affair. There's the first handoff of the game and really nowhere to go. The running back stuffed, trying to run that ball right up the middle, and the stop made there by Revis.
I'll take a look and just see who Drew Brown is. Oklahoma State, 5'11", 195 pounds. Take a look at the game on Friday against the Edmonton Elk. They lost, but the Bombers lost that preseason game, but he showed well, and Prukop had some issues with interceptions.
Borsa will stand into the left of Brown, 3 over to his right. Brown has some room to run if he wants to dump it off, and he does. That is a completion up to the 50 and a big collision into the hands of Kyle Borsa. And Borsa looked like he was looking to lower the boom on somebody.
Well, first of all, just right out of the gate, just like the composure of Drew Brown, just breaking the pocket here, using his legs like Zach Galaris does often, and getting outside with his eyes up. I mean, not just tucking it under his arm and taking off for the first down or attempting to. He kept his eyes down the field and found a receiver open. Moved the chains.
Getting Borsa involved early here in this offense. Regina-born, Regina Ram, returned a little bit in university as well. And they're going to give it to him again. He's going to kick it to the outside. This is a great pickup as he takes it down inside the 45, and a nice start to this drive for Borsa and the Bombers.
Yeah, you know he's excited.
Oh, you think?
You think he's excited to play former Regina Ram, getting outside and getting around the edge. Now, he's got an opportunity in this game tonight because Brady Oliveira is going to take over for Andrew Harris in the backfield. He is the front runner to start in that position. They have Johnny Augustine, of course, but they need another one. We're going to see 3 tailbacks tonight for the Bombers, and Borsa's one of them.
He's going to flare out to the right now. Brown's going to give it to him again, and that time he couldn't come up with it. Got his right hand on it, but it does fall incomplete. But first 4 touches of this game go to Borsa, so they're certainly giving him an opportunity to show what he's got.
Well, and he's a returner too, and that's going to help him because when you're trying to make the team, we're seeing a lot of young faces tonight, a lot of young guys. Remember, you got basically 3 draft years.
Yes.
And we're trying to catch up on all 3 from 20, which was the canceled season, 21, a shortened season, and now 22 draft as well.
Borsa selected 39th overall in the draft. Brown over the middle this time, and a lunging catch down at the 26. BJ McElveen gets underneath that one.
Boy, that's a nice dig route from McElveen. He's 4 receivers to the field. Now, we'll get to the rule changes in a second, but it's a more balanced field this year. You'll notice in the Canadian Football League, the hash marks moved in by 4 yards. One of the rule changes that we'll get to a little bit later on in the show.
McElveen, a 24-year-old out of Wingate. They're going to hand it off again, but this goes nowhere. DeMarcus Christmas there to stop Borsa on the handoff.
We got some good names out here.
We do, don't we? There's a Lucky Jackson on one side and DeMarcus Christmas.
Florida State, 6'3", 300 pounds. He got upfield on that one. Again, no Micah Johnson this year. He's moved to the Hamilton Tiger Cats, so that's an area that Craig Dickinson is interested to watch.
6-yard loss, 2nd and 16 here for Brown. 3 to his left, 2 to his right. Borsa over the middle. He looks down the field, and that'll be complete to the 10 as Drew Brown delivers yet again. Dalton Schoen, who's fighting for a spot in one of those open starting spots in the Bombers receiving core, and that might help him.
Well, that's 2 second-down throws from Drew Brown that have been real impressive. One of the toughest throws for a quarterback in this level, the pro level, is that dig route, that crossing route over the middle, because there's so much traffic. You can lose a linebacker who drops under it, and it's an interception. 2 big completions for Brown.
8th play of this drive for the Bombers to start the game. They're going to swing it out again. That'll be complete down to the 5, and no further. Got it back in the hands of McElveen, and he is stopped. Brown is 4 of 5 on this drive.
Named a team captain back in 2019 at Oklahoma State. So often your quarterback is one of your team captains, but that's an honor that's voted on by the team. He played at Oklahoma State and was one of the team captains. You know he's got that leadership ability.
2nd and goal for Brown. 9th play of the drive towards the corner, and that one incomplete. He was looking for Rasheed Bailey, who could end up being targeted quite often in that position this year, and he was unable to get his hands on it.
Yeah, Josh Nurse, Utah. Look at the pretty good press coverage here from Nurse, trying to find a spot in the Rider secondary. Punches with his left hand, stays in that hip pocket of Rasheed Bailey, who has CFL experience. 14 games in 2021. A couple of big plays in the playoffs too, and a good 2-point convert in the Grey Cup from Rasheed Bailey.
They're going to go for it here. 3rd and goal. It's the preseason. Why not? Here's Brown. He's in trouble. Is he going to get away? No. They will take him down. Another loss on the play. Justin Herdman Reed gets home, and the Riders defense holds. Pretty positive drive for the Bombers. Stalls at the 5. We are scoreless here in the first quarter. Welcome back to Regina, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. And an off-season of changes, and here's a look at a few of the key ones.
Well, the first one is probably most important and will, everyone hopes, have a real positive outcome from the rule change. To move the hash marks in 4 yards, it balances the field off, and I'll show you some examples as the game goes on as to how offenses can take advantage of that. But all the rules basically that were changed this year were to help the offenses.
Our first look at Mason Fine, and he dumps it off to Jamal Morrow, who could have an opportunity, I should say, to really step up this year. He's a guy that we talked about a lot last year, knowing that he's got a ton of potential.
Well, he's the front runner to take over for William Powell back in Ottawa, and it'll be a good competition between Frankie Hickson and Shaq Cooper, also in the lineup tonight. And all three will be battling for that starting tailback spot. Morrow's the front runner.
Powell was 4th in the league last year, and there's a flag on this play. It looked like they came in high on Fine, might have hit the head. But Powell had almost 800 yards last year, so they'll need a guy like Morrow or somebody else to step up. But we've got our first flag of the ball game.
Well, we're used to seeing great defensive end play from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Just a bit.
With Jackson, Jeffcoat, Willie
Roughing the
Jefferson.
passer, Winnipeg, number 96. It's a 15-yard penalty, first down.
But I think here it's Ricky Walker who is going to, he's going to get upfield and high on this tackle. He's wide open with a clean run. Well, it was throwing him down on his head that drew the flag. Because that arm wasn't too high, it was along his back.
That'll move the ball out to the Riders 32 for Fine. He'll hand it off, trying to cut it back there was Morrow. And he got a couple of yards before he was taken down heavily.
So let's take a look at the hash marks. So you can see the two hash marks. The old ones were right about here and on the outside. So what that does is it balances the field out so that quarterbacks can now work that short side and corners have to stay true on the short side of the field.
2nd and 7 with the ball on their own 35. That one up for grabs, and it's going to be picked off at the 45. Now on the far side of the field. They'll bring it all the way back down inside the 30. Taekwon Glass. But there is a flag just outside the 35 on the far side of the field. That ball just hanging up there for Taekwon Glass.
After the interception, illegal block, Winnipeg, number 92. It's a 10-yard penalty, first down.
After the play, so the Glass interception will stand. Bomber ball.
Taekwon Glass. A few other stops in the Canadian Football League, looking to win himself a job here in Winnipeg. That'll help. No preseason last year, but we've got one this year. A chance for some coaches to evaluate things. Let's send it down to Sarah Orleski for more.
Well, Dustin, obviously there are a number of battles that are going on both sides, regardless of the position. But when I had the chance to speak to the head coaches, I asked Mike O'Shea if there's anything in particular that he's looking for in terms of positional battles, and pointed out again the secondary. Tell me if you've heard that before. That sounds familiar from last year as well, whether it be because of injuries or departed players. There are openings there to be had for it. As for the Riders sidelines, one of the things that Craig Dickinson mentioned was both lines, offensive and defensive lines. He wants to see them get more physical, and he has really preached, though, not only being physical, making sure that they are disciplined. Penalties, such an issue for this Riders team last year, costly with them. That's something that he is really hammering home throughout this training camp. He wants to see them improve on.
Not a lot of time left to do it for a lot of these guys, right, Glenn? And there's some key battles. We see Borsa, who's fighting for a job, with a nice pickup there on first down yet again.
Yeah, he's off to a good start. But yeah, like Sarah mentioned, Craig Dickinson talking about those penalties. He's addressed it from the first day of training camp. Talked to him yesterday with Sarah and said that that's something that they're going to focus on big time in practice, because they were last in the league, had the most penalties of any team in the Canadian Football League last year, and it hurt them.
2nd and short here for Drew Brown. Back to Borsa again, a little bit of a hesitation, picks his way around the line, and Borsa's got a first down.
Well, you know, he's shown a couple of things early on in this game. Kyle Borsa has shown that he's got great vision, discipline. I haven't seen a bust. He's been where he needs to be and taken the ball where he needs to take it. Saw a little crack to the outside, a little daylight, and he just bounced a little jump cut to get there. We've also seen him catch the ball out of the backfield. He's got 38 yards of offense already.
Brown's going to keep it this time, looks down the field. This is into double coverage, and it falls incomplete. He was looking for Janarian Grant, who was used heavily last year in a return role.
But I've liked the play of Drew Brown to start this game in the first half. A couple of real good dig throws over the middle, about 15 yarders. That intermediate middle throw is very difficult. Buck Pierce, the offensive coordinator. That's the one thing that will remain consistent for the back-to-back Grey Cup champions. Their offensive coordinator will be the same, and so will their DC, Richie Hall.
2nd and 10 here for Brown on the 36. Nowhere to go. A couple of Riders arriving there at the same time to finish him off. And this defense has made a couple of big plays so far. That's Pete Robertson, who had 5 sacks in 2021.
He's on the Western Final roster against this Winnipeg Blue Bomber team, and he takes on his man, stays disciplined in his zone lane or in his rush lane, and then worked his way to Brown.
Anthony Lanier was in there as well. Leggio is going to come out to kick this away. And that will be taken at the 5. Really nowhere to go. Punt of 44, taken back to about the 9. Riders defense coming up with a couple of big plays so far here in the first quarter of this preseason tilt between Winnipeg and Saskatchewan.
Take another look at the rule change with the hash marks in close. There's another 4 yards between that hash mark and the sideline now. So the corner playing on that short side of the field has got to play his receiver true. Usually they'll play like this with that short side. Back to the sideline, knowing that the receiver can really not run an out in the past. Not enough room over there. Now this Saskatchewan receiver can run an out, or he can run the in. Basically, you have to play true and inside shade now. Changes the corner's responsibility.
How many times do you think you're going to have to explain that this year? Just a few, eh?
Well, you know, the corner would sit with his back to the sideline and then pattern read the short side. So the corner then had that advantage, and usually they'll put the savvy vet corners throughout the past on that short side of the field. Now it's still the short side, but it's 4 yards wider now, so the receiver has a two-way go. He can run it out, he's got room to do it, or in. That means the corner has to stay true.
Big pickup there by Jamal Morrow, 16 yards. Here's Fine. He's got a completion. Picton gets his hands on the ball for the first time, and he gets it out to about the Rider 30.
So that's a small thing in how an offense can get a true look and be a little bit more balanced. I know the short side has always been a favorite side to get to, but if you now have an out route and a corner here in Ponder that has to play true, he can't cheat and play outside in any longer. Now that makes that much more available to the quarterback, the two-way go.
Fine steps up in the pocket after feeling a little bit of pressure, pushing ahead, lunging ahead, and getting awfully close to a first down. Nice play there by Mason Fine, the 25-year-old, showing some composure.
Yeah, and a little bit of urgency. You know, like he knows that he's probably got the first half. I think Craig Dickinson said that we'd see Fine in the first half. He wants to see him run the offense and go through the highs and lows that quarterbacks do every game. And then we'll see Dulagala and Williams in the second half.
Had enough. It's 1st and 10 now on the Saskatchewan 35. 4 receivers to the left. That's where they're going to go. Try to set up a screen here. Lunging over a defender and taking it out to the 50. That is one of those plays that we've become accustomed to seeing from Kean Schaefer-Baker.
Yeah, over 500 yards for Kean Schaefer-Baker, and this is a guy that I think the expectations for him are through the roof. I mean, Schaefer-Baker, he's going to run that hitch pass, and then watch what he does with the ball in his hands. We saw this last year. Another year understanding how to train in the offseason and a preseason. Sky's the limit for Schaefer-Baker.
20 yards for Schaefer-Baker on that one. They'll turn around and hand it off to Morrow, who puts his head down and pushes ahead. Takes it close to the Winnipeg 50.
Now Mason Fine getting a little bit of a rhythm. Let's take a look at who Mason Fine is. Beat out Isaac Harker to get the number 2 job behind Cody Fajardo. 49 games with North Texas. Can run. But as you mentioned, dressed in the playoffs last year.
Got a little bit of him late in the season there too. 5 of 9 for 64 yards. And settling in a little bit here now. Goes to Tevin Jones on the far side. That ball pops loose and it's scooped up by the Bombers as Jones caught the ball, couldn't hang on, and Winnipeg's defense with their second turnover created in this ball game. Corey Slaughter scooping that one up after it popped out of the hands of Tevin Jones, and Winnipeg's offense will be back on the field at midfield when we return. Back-to-back Grey Cup champions means a little more bling. For more on that, let's send it down to Sarah Orlesky.
Oh, not a little bit more, Dustin. Wait until you see the size of these rings that the Winnipeg Blue Bombers were given on Saturday. They closed the book on the 2021 season. Look at that hardware that they've got there. The diamonds for it. Players obviously absolutely thrilled. You see a number of them having the back-to-back championships for them. What I loved about these rings and what I thought really stood out about them too was the detail that went into them. There's from the 12 sapphire stones that are on them that symbolize the 12 wins that the Bombers organization has had. 33 points that they had in the Grey Cup. But look at this on the side. That is actually a picture that was taken in 2021 of fans in the stand that they had etched on the sidelines. They've got team mottos. There's just a tremendous amount of detail to it. Players obviously thrilled. As I mentioned, not small, not a little bit of bling, Dustin. That is some significant size to that ring.
Oh, that play was almost made down the field by McIlveen. Helmet comes off at the end of it on the deep shot there by Brown. You can't wear that ring all the time, can you?
I'll tell you what.
You want to, but...
Yeah, and for the Bombers, they've got two. See McIlveen just go down the numbers here, but yeah, I just, you just get goosebumps looking at that ring and that picture of the fans. What a great idea. Oh. That's a real picture, and those fans can see their likeness now forever on the championship ring, because those fans represent all the fans in Winnipeg.
I don't think that's ever been done. I mean, regardless of the league.
I don't know that it has, but...
Here's Brown on the run, and this is a nice pickup, slides ahead. That's a first down as he was looking downfield, and then decided to take off for 14 yards.
But this is, again, this is good decision making for Drew Brown. He's done this in this first quarter. Good decisions. He's actually taken a couple of sacks, which at times can be a good decision because you don't want to force it and cause a turnover. So good running first down. But could you imagine being one of those fans saying, hey, that's me right there. I'm holding my beer. I'm cheering for my Blue Bombers.
Especially the guy front and center, both hands up like a hero forever.
Well, now, I mean, I talked to Craig Dickinson yesterday, and I asked him, what do you have to do to get better? He said, we ought to beat Winnipeg.
Yeah. And
guess what? Every team in the league right now is saying the exact same thing.
That's a really good point.
These guys, the Bombers, are at the top of the mountain. Every team is climbing that mountain, trying to knock them off the top. And that's a beautiful ring representing last year's championship.
Riders have been close, but they haven't been able to get it done just yet. Not that anybody has in the last couple of years against these Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Final play of the quarter. 2nd and 9 for Brown. Escapes the pocket yet again, has room again, and he's going to take off again. And yes, that is another first down. Thank you to the legs of Drew Brown getting it done, but no points on the board just yet. Some impressive performances. Brown has looked pretty good. Borsa has been involved in the offense. Jamal Morrow with a decent push ahead as well. We are scoreless at Mosaic here on TSN. On the board right now, but we talked about guys looking to have some performances, trying to win some jobs, and I think we saw a little bit of that in the first quarter.
Yeah, Kyle Borsa, former University of Regina Ram, doing a nice job. 39 offensive yards for Borsa in that first quarter. I like what I see with Drew Brown. I think he's made some great decisions. He's got the field tilted a little bit in the Bombers' favor, although not punching it in. The Saskatchewan defense have made some plays when they got backed up in their own end.
It's got to be an interesting spot to be in, knowing that this is your chance to win a job. Like just that one, like there's not many opportunities in life where you get that one crack at it. And if you don't play well tonight, you might not be a part of this roster by tomorrow afternoon. Like there's a lot of pressure on a lot of these guys.
Yeah, but you want to go out and have fun, be yourself. But yeah, you have to check some boxes. Yeah. Even if the ball doesn't come your way, which can happen in your 1 or 2 quarters or a quarter and a half, or maybe even it's just 3 or 4 series. But be assignment sound. Don't get any penalties. Be where you're supposed to be.
Over 60 yards in the air for Brown, over 20 on the ground. He's got a man wide open, but the pass is behind. It's Borsa, who slipped out there to the quarterback's left, and you saw Brown kind of hang his head after that ball falls incomplete.
Yeah, it looked like the mechanics were a little off for Drew Brown on this throw, but Kyle Borsa can help him by gearing down. He's wide open. Borsa's in the backfield and is going to end up being the target as Drew Brown is going to escape to the left. And he's going to break away from everybody. Now, if he sits down right there, that's an easy throw, but he kept drifting towards the sidelines.
Just sit down on the 20 there?
Yeah, just sit down right there, and Drew Brown can throw it right to him. He's wide open.
4 receivers to the right here for Brown. That's where he looks first. That's where he's going to go, and that one is complete just outside the 10 as Grant went down and got it.
Yeah, Janarian Grant is playmaker, had a little some injury issues last year, but an explosive player in the return game as well. That's another great throw across the middle. I think he did catch that. Got the hands underneath.
Grant in the slot now to the right of Brown. Borsa right beside him. Brown.
Look out.
That one was almost picked. Jones Jr. looked like he got a hand on it. He was looking for Rasheed Bailey, and that'll bring up 2nd and 10.
Yeah, and the rule change again is going to affect defensively the will linebacker. The will linebacker, the weak side linebacker, that's what the will's called. He's the weak side there, and the short side of the field's got more distance to cover now to get to that curl. It was done well there by the Saskatchewan Roughriders' Alvin Jones, but a little bit more real estate to cover outside.
2nd and 10 from the Rider 12. The Bombers have been here before, couldn't get it done. This one thrown to an open spot in the end zone and falls incomplete. Brendan O'Leary Orange, closest target there, but I don't think he had a play on it.
Well, again, another pretty good drive by Drew Brown that ends up in, well, this time a field goal attempt, but see the score. Playing in Saskatchewan's end of the field in the first quarter, coming up away with no points, and chance for 3 here.
Leggio from straightaway, Krukop to hold. Leggio had a 4-for-4 game last year when called into field goal duty, and he puts this one straight down the middle, and the Bombers are on the board first. Had to settle for 3, but it'll give them a cushion for now. Riders, Bombers, preseason action.
Okay, bring it, baby.
Oh, big time football is back. CFL regular season kicks off on June 9th. Action-packed schedule. Rolling in to the weekend. Coverage begins on Thursday. Preseason's great, but this is really exciting, isn't it?
Preseason's about evaluation. Preseason's great for the young guys that are trying to make the team, but this is what it's all about. We kick it off June 9th. Alouettes versus the Calgary Stampeders. Bo Levi Mitchell healthy. Canadian quarterback starting for the BC Lions, it looks like. Action for them, I know, but Nathan Rourke he's got that job right now.
We'll get a look at that on Friday. We will be in Vancouver for the Riders and the Lions as this ball bounces through the end zone. Watching it there was Tremaine Pope.
Jake Dolegala is out there now at quarterback in this second quarter.
If he looks like a giant, it's because he is. 6'7", 245 pounds, 25-year-old out of Central Connecticut.
I asked Craig Dickinson, give me a word on all 3 of the guys that we're going to see in this game tonight. He said Mason Fines, accuracy. He said Jake Dolegala, big arm. I said one word. He said big arm.
Big arm, all right.
Big arm. I said, okay. Troy Williams, great athlete.
Dolegala steps back. Right over the middle. And that one came in hot, bounced off an arm, fell incomplete out near midfield as a little bit of zip on that one. As he's looking to find Dooley Aristild.
Delegale shows you that arm. I mean, this is that in route. Remember that in route I talked about Drew Brown throwing? Look at all the traffic in there. That's what it can look like when you're trying to force one in coverage across the middle. There's a lot of bodies in there, and he gunned it.
And now we've got multiple flags before that ball could be snapped.
Procedure, Saskatchewan, number 68. It's 5-yard penalty. Repeats, second down.
All-time passing leader in Central Connecticut, Jake Delegale, that many that have been watching training camp up in Saskatoon have said that he's been quite impressive in practice, running the offense, and that big arm has been very noticeable.
And we've got more flags here. Shaq Cooper in the game now as well. So we saw Jamal Morrow. We saw Mason Fine. Now it looks like we move into that
Offside,
second set of guys.
Winnipeg, number 76. 5-yard penalty. Remains second down.
Delegale, Shaq Cooper. We mentioned Dooley Aristill, who was the target on that first pass from Delegale. So these are guys too fighting for a job this season in the Canadian Football League.
Fajardo, Evans, Duke Williams, Kyron Moore, all not dressed for this one tonight.
4 receivers to the right for Delegale. That's where he's going to look. He's got a completion on the far side. Schaefer Baker, and he was scooped up in a hurry there by Demario Houston, and he's able to hang on to him. Houston last year playing 4 games for this Bombers team.
Well, this was a forced quick throw because he had to get it out of there. This is Delegale that's got to get it out on the blitz. The blitz is coming from Winnipeg, so he's got to get it out. That's his hot read to Schaefer Baker right near the sideline. So Michael O'Shea has dressed 18 different defensive backs. He's got some injury issues in the defensive backfield, the Grey Cup champions. Brandon Alexander hasn't returned from his injury in the Grey Cup. Hasn't practiced yet. All-star safety. A good tackle on the outside.
This kick from about the 25 will be taken at the 22. And now some room right up the middle, lunging ahead and taking it out over the 40 is Demario Houston, getting involved in the return game here a little bit.
We're watching some of the draft picks for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Saskatchewan Roughriders here tonight. Of course, Tyrell Ford, number 1 pick for them, which was in the 2nd round, pick number 13 overall. Cole Adamson will see some action in this one tonight as well.
He's Manitoba Bison now playing with the Bombers.
And another Oak Park Raider.
They've turned out some pretty good football players, haven't they?
Brady Oliveira, Andrew Harris, now a Toronto Argonaut, but obviously crucial to the success of the Bombers the last 2 years. And Canadian tailback been the leading rusher for, what is it, 4 out of the last 5. So
he's okay.
Yeah, yeah, I would say, and I think he's still got some football in him. So look forward to doing a Argo game and seeing Andrew Harris in new uniform. But they got to build that backfield around Oliveira now. And
Prukop in the game, and he's got Grant on a first down out to about the 51. And an opportunity here for Dakota Prukop, who was with Toronto for quite some time and was in Edmonton last season.
Nice little head fake there from Janarian Grant to get himself open in the middle. And yeah, you know, it's an interesting dynamic because you want to be a great teammate. In fact, you're being evaluated on how you are as a teammate in training camp. But if your quarterback's on the sideline, Drew Brown's now watching his teammate going, is he going, okay, good job, nice throw.
A little bit of a different vibe in preseason, maybe. Here's Prokop. Thought about swinging it out. Now he's just going to keep it and move ahead. And this is kind of what we saw when he was playing with the Elks. They like to get him moving. That one wasn't designed, but you see Prokop is a guy who can do that and might be the key for him landing a job here with Winnipeg.
Yeah, spent some time in Toronto. Now he's got some CFL experience,
yes.
and obviously he's athletic, but you know, the way Drew Brown played in the first preseason game for Winnipeg, the way he's played in the first quarter here, That puts a little more pressure on Dakota Prukop.
Well, Prukop had 2 interceptions in that first preseason game, so looking to prove something here against the Riders. Bombers lead 3-0. Prukop, he's going to look down the field. Rasheed Bailey comes back to it, and there's a flag as Bailey hauls it in. A couple of flags on the field, but he's got it inside the 20, and a big-time catch from Rasheed Bailey.
AJ Hendy, I believe, was in coverage.
Saskatchewan, number 35. Penalties declined. First down.
Corner route by Rasheed Bailey here. Again, you take a look at the ball being more in the middle of the field. That's now the wide side. It actually looks like the short side, but you got to play true and head up now. And Rasheed Bailey, isn't it the premiere of Top Gun? He slammed on the brakes and flew right by.
It was like 150 million in opening weekend. My goodness, I can't wait to see it. Prukop turns, steps up. Now he's going to take off again, right up the middle. Prukop picks his way down inside the 10. A quick little spin before he's taken down around that Rider 6.
See, here's another sort of dilemma for Dakota Prukop. We know he can do this.
Yep.
Mike O'Shea knows he can do this. But you also don't want your quarterback to not do what it's instinctually he should be doing in the game. So if you see the run lane and it's there to make a play like he just did, take it. But we know he can run. Can he throw from the pocket? Can he run the passing game? That's what they've got to find out in Winnipeg.
First and goal from the 7. Drew Brown found himself in similar situations. They couldn't punch it in. This time they're going to hand it off, lunging ahead, taking it down to the 3. Shane Simpson, the 24-year-old out of Virginia, and he puts them down in pretty decent scoring position here.
A little shorter at 5'8" than Kyle Borsa, who got the first quarter. Again, they want to find a third tailback to work in through that rotation, a guy that could probably return as well. Punt and kickoffs.
Borsa had 6 carries for 21 yards, a long of 17.
I think Shane Simpson is a returner as well in his college days.
Prukop up under center. Simpson in behind him. They'll give it to Simpson, and he is stopped in his tracks. Nowhere to go.
In the first quarter, Michael O'Shea and Buck Pierce decided to go for it on 3rd down in this scenario.
Well, you gave Drew Brown that opportunity. Do you give Prukop the same opportunity here?
It looks like they are. Yep.
That was A.J. Allen in on the tackle.
As many plays as you can get to evaluate every single person on the field right now. That's the philosophy now. Obviously, in the regular season, you're kicking a field goal.
30th offensive play of the game. Prukop misses Grant. Looked like some miscommunication there. Grant had separated himself, but the ball went flying over his head, and the Bombers come up empty, deep in Rider territory yet again. Welcome back to Regina, everyone. Thank you for joining us for some preseason action tonight. And here's a look at the Riders 2022 draft.
Yeah, Samuel Emelis has had a great training camp apparently, and is in that competition with Keon Schaefer-Baker, Mitch Picton, and Justin McInnes. 2 of those receivers will probably start in the regular season. Which 2 is still to be determined.
A lot of opportunity to prove yourself. That was a look at Emelis right there. He's out in the field now. Dolagala's going to turn and hand this off right up the middle, and a nice push by Frankie Hickson.
I see ya. That was a nice burst. And you know, when we talk about in this game trying to get the coach's attention, that was a great acceleration, great burst through the hole that just destroyed the tackling angles from the Bomber defense.
Not bad for a first touch of the game, eh? If you're trying to make an initial impression, well, here you go, coach.
Get their attention. Yeah.
25-year-old out of Liberty. And we got another flag here.
All-time leader in all-purpose yards out of Liberty. and again a returner as well.
Offside, Winnipeg, number 52. 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
Frankie Hickson. 5'8", 200 pounds, Liberty University. Almost 3,000 yards and hasn't played in some time.
Almost 900 days between games, gets that ball, pushes it right up the middle, puts his team in a pretty decent spot here now. 1st and 5. That'll be a completion, and that'll be all the way out to beyond the 35. James Tuck, after 3 years in Edmonton, here in a fullback role with the Riders.
Again, more balanced sets. And Tuck, fullback, coming out wide with, I believe it was Frankie Hickson was the tailback that also flared, so that freezes a linebacker.
1st and 10 for the Riders. Ball sitting on their own 35. Pressure coming right up the middle. Dolegala is going to pitch it out. Hickson tries to cut it back, and he does, and he pushes that outside around the 47 with some more on Frankie Hickson. Let's send it down to Sarah Orlesky.
Well, Dustin, what an opportunity for Frankie Hickson that exists here right now. Obviously, William Powell having gone to Ottawa, so there is that competition for the running back position here with the Riders. We saw on that board with some of his information, almost 900 games since he last played in 2019 with Liberty University. I spoke to him just before the game. He said he is focused. He is so thankful for this opportunity. He didn't know whether or not he would get the chance to continue to try to play football. And how about this connection? Liberty University, his senior year, who came in as the offensive coordinator? A name very familiar to Riders fans, Kent Austin.
How about that twist?
Yeah, I love the story too, because he was coached by Kent Austin, and he said, he was asked about Kent Austin, of course, Saskatchewan Roughrider, one of my former teammates, a champion as a quarterback in Saskatchewan and as a coach in 07. And Hickson said, he's got a big brain. He's a coach with a big brain.
That's a compliment, right?
Absolutely.
3 carries, 27 yards for Hickson. Now they're going to move Dolegala out to the left, and that is a completion on the near sideline as he got it into the hands of the 7th overall pick, Samuel Emelis. People are always excited to see a 1st-round pick, aren't they? Especially when it's a receiver.
Nice throw there, too.
First touch of the game for Emelis, and he's able to hang on the feed from Dolegala. Riders have the ball, trail 3-0.
Not a lot of points at halftime, but some pretty good offensive performances. We'll tell you who impressed us. And with Jim Barker gone, we've got a new guy on this panel we like to call Coach. We'll tell you who and why when we come back at halftime.
What are they talking about? That sounds exciting, doesn't it? Coming up at halftime with the crew back in the studio. Flag thrown very high. I don't know if we can get a shot of that. Did you see how high that flag was thrown on the far side of the field? My goodness.
Now they're excited that football's back, too.
That hung up there forever.
That early contact on the curl route.
Offside, Saskatchewan, number 84. That penalty is declined. 2nd down.
Jacob Prawl offside. Declined the penalty, so it'll be 2nd and 10 here.
Give it to Frankie Hickson. I want to see him play again. I want to get the ball in his hands one more time.
I have a feeling we're going to see quite a bit of him here the rest of the way in this one. He'll step up to the right here of Dolegala. 2 to the left for Dolegala, 3 to the right. Hesitates in a little bit of trouble here, and they're going to take the big fella down as he is eventually got to by 3 Bombers. A loss of about 10, and that'll bring up 3rd and 20 for the Riders.
But look at Frankie Hickson here, and now we're going to ISO on him a little bit. He knows that there's pressure coming. He's recognized it, and he has one responsibility. That's to pick up the blitzer in the middle. He did that. He did his job. That's a plus for Frankie Hickson. Now the pocket collapses in other areas, and Dolegala's brought down, but you got to know if your tailback can block. Hickson just got a good one.
Kenny Randall, Cedric Levine The two Bombers getting to Dolegala as this will be booted away. Oh boy. Through the legs of the return man and just out of bounds. As Greg McRae had trouble fielding that one. Frankie Hickson doing a little bit of everything, trying to make the Riders. Well, we got to look a little bit earlier in the game at the rings that the Bombers have from 2021. And here's a look at how they got to the last two Grey Cup finals. And it was against their arch rivals in the West.
Yeah, in 2019, the goal post at the end of that game, and then Saskatchewan chipping away at Winnipeg and closing that 7-point gap to 4 in the 21 West final. That was in Winnipeg. Andrew Hare's big game there. But yeah, Craig Dickinson's group has been knocking on the door, and their Western final disappointments are starting to stack up on them. And remember, the Grey Cup game at the end of November will be played right here.
No pressure on the Riders to be there this year, is there? Here in Regina, maybe a little bit. The Riders have been...
Procedure, Winnipeg, number 50. Half of the distance to the goal, remains first down.
Riders have been close. Like, they've had good football teams for quite some time now. The Bombers on the other side have won at least double-digit victories in the last 5 years, but it took them a little while to get to where, to get to what they've become as well. So
yeah, really 2 years of building for Michael O'Shea, and to get the culture that he was looking for, the players that fit in that culture in the locker room, and the starting quarterback that could get it done when they got Zach Collaros really came together.
High snap, Prokop goes up and gets it, is able to tuck it into the belly of his running back, and a nice carry from Shane Simpson to get his team out of a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah, that was a very good run to just hit it as hard as he hit it without any hesitation at the line of scrimmage. Sometimes you got to know when you can make a move at the line. Sometimes you got to know when to just hit it and get upfield, and Simpson made the right choice there and got a new set of downs.
Simpson, 24-year-old, spent 4 years at Towson before heading to Virginia. Prokop is going to keep it himself this time, and this is a big pickup for Prokop as he takes it all the way out, gets popped just shy of the 50. He got hammered, but he bounces right back up. And you said it earlier, Glenn, we know that Prokop can do these types of things, and when he does it well, it looks really good. Yeah, and
it's a good play. I mean, this will be a plus if he's being graded after the game, which they all are. So I mean, this is a play where Dakota Prokop gets a plus. It's a big run down the sideline. He doesn't have to take that hit. He can step out of bounds right about there, but decides to. So his teammates will love that when they watch the video back. But we know he can do that.
It's 2 of 3 through the air for 48 yards. This time he's going to hand it off to Simpson, and Simpson keeps those legs churning and takes the ball onto the Riders' side of the field.
But the other thing is that one of the rule changes, we didn't show them all to you. We showed you the most significant ones, but one of the other rule changes is that this year you can put a second quarterback on the field. So there can be actually 2 quarterbacks. Basically, a quarterback playing in a tailback position flares out, and you can throw the ball more than once from behind the line of scrimmage. So you could also have a running style athletic quarterback, and Dakota Prokop fits that. He really does fit that mold.
Throw it out to him, get his hands. He can take
run
take
or
a look.
throw.
He can throw it, and if there's nobody there, he can just take off. Yeah. How do you think? By mid-season, do you think we're sitting here going, wow, the 2 quarterback thing has really changed things, or is it just something we're going to see every once in a while?
Well, let's see how it evolves. I asked Craig Dickinson yesterday about it, and he said, yeah, we're definitely going to put it into the playbook. But if you got 2 guys, now Drew Brown can run too. We didn't see as much of him running, but you got Cody Fajardo. You put him with one of his backups. Let's say it's Mason Fine, just for now. That decision is still to be made. But he plays tailback or a slot back spot, then drops behind Fajardo. He throws it to him. Now Fine can run or throw from there. I mean, it could really open things up. It's an interesting rule change. We'll see how offensive coordinators develop, but it's part of the evaluation of these second-team quarterbacks as well. to fit into that second quarterback role.
Tada to kick this away. And that will come down to Pope. Bounces in between his legs, and who's on top of it? Ball is loose. And did Winnipeg hop on this loose ball? There's a flag at about the 22 in the center of the field. As they take everybody out of this pile, they're going to give the ball to the visitors.
Well, we talk about getting the coach's attention, and you can do it in a good way or a bad way. And that was just poor judgment. Ball right on the turf. Play made
Holding.
by
Saskatchewan, number 20. That penalty is declined. First down, Winnipeg.
Jamal Parker, one of the 18 defensive backs dressed, gets down on the cover team, and now he's just got Michael O'Shea's attention because he was there in time to recover that fumble and make a play on the teams. Young guys make the team working on special teams.
24-year-old out of Kent State. Had 9 interceptions during his time at Kent. 5'8", 177. Getting down the field. Still holding the ball. And scooping something up on special teams. And puts the Bombers in a really nice spot here to add to their 3-0 lead. Prukop remains in the game. He's got Shane Simpson standing to his left. 3 receivers to his left as well. Now he's going to come to the right, lunging out and going down and getting it. And that's Rasheed Bailey again. And you can tell that Bailey's played and had success in this league. He's made a couple of nice catches so far here this evening.
Yeah, just knowing where to be and when to get there. I mean, he's got pretty good coverage there, but fights it off and then finds that soft spot. Dakota Prukop throwing him open, throwing him back to the outside, closer to the sideline to draw him away from that coverage. Two catches for 43 yards for Rasheed Bailey.
If you're in a CFL fantasy draft this year, I think Bailey's going to be good draft value. Good draft value. People know about him, but I think he's got potential to have a pretty big season for the Bombers.
The Bombers have got to replace Kenny Lawler. They've got opportunities for this young guys. Darvin Adams is no longer a Bomber. Kenny Lawler, their leading receiver last year, he's no longer a Bomber. So, you know, that's what these preseason games are for. Who gets those catches? Like, let's say for Kenny Lawler, 6-7 a game.
Yeah, he was over 90 targets, I think, last year. He's the only receiver in the league to have 1,000 yards. That's a lot of numbers for somebody else to slide in, and whether it's 2 or 3 guys.
Who's gonna pick up that slack? Who's gonna win that job to get those extra touches and extra looks?
One of the guys we've seen a little bit involved in the offense here, Janarian Grant, explosive in the return game last year. I wonder if that's a guy who, you know, maybe they can work him into the offense a little bit more than they did last season.
Of course, Greg Ellingson is also part of this team now, not dressed tonight. So that's a big pickup. But yeah, this is an opportunity for these guys. And Rasheed Bailey's got a couple catches tonight. So does Janarian Grant.
Nick Dembski had a great season last year. Maybe there's more there for Dembski.
Great season.
Dembski, he was terrific.
It's time for Dembski to get 1,000, or like over 1,000.
So there's a guy who could step up and do even more this year.
He's a 1,200-yard receiver, and he's a Swiss Army knife, so he can do it all. He can run the ball and those fly sweeps very well. But you know, I'd love to see Nick Dembski move up and get that 1,200, 1,300 yards. I think he's very capable of doing it. You know, they're going to miss Andrew Harris, though. Yeah. They're going to miss Andrew Harris. And that's not saying anything about Brady Oliveira. And I think he's a great young player who's got a great future and should have a big year. But
Augustine's looked pretty good, too, when given opportunity, right?
Yeah, no, I hear you.
But look who they're replacing. Nothing against those guys, but look who they're replacing.
Yeah, Andrew Harris does a lot that, you really don't notice. Very seldom ever misses a blocking assignment. I mean, Andrew Harris, when you take a look at, as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber, hometown, look at those numbers.
I think it's almost 8,000 combined yards on the ground and in the air, which is it's very good, in case you're not familiar with how those numbers work.
And you go back to that Grey Cup in 19 in Calgary against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and Andrew Harris was the outstanding Canadian and the MVP of that game. Only player in CFL history to do that. And I just, Brady Oliveira is a slightly different style of runner, and like you said, they've got some great young players to take over, and we'll see how they find their way. But I think you're going to miss Andrew Harris.
First and goal from the 4. Can the Bombers find the end zone this time down the field? Broke up, incomplete. Far side was looking for Jackson, and he couldn't find him.
Here's a subtle thing. Remember Rasheed Bailey when he got that coverage, and then he knew where he was going to get the ball. It was going to be away from that coverage. That time Jackson didn't have that same awareness, so he kept running into an area that was where the coverage was sitting, and Dakota Prukop threw it to where he should have been floating out to. It's just a difference in experience.
It's Blake Jackson. He's a 28-year-old. Played some quarterback, actually, 3 years of quarterback in college. There's Prukop again. To the corner, a little bit too far. He went back to Blake Jackson again, but he just missed him. He had him, though, didn't he, Glenn? It was there. The Bombers have been knocking on the door almost a handful of times, but they just cannot find the end zone yet.
Yeah, Dakota Prukop with a little more air under this ball gives his receiver a chance to throw it right into the corner, and you wonder why they're going to Jackson. Let's see, their experienced receiver in the lineup tonight is Rasheed Bailey, and he got covered up pretty well there.
They're going to go again. 3rd and goal from the 4, and this one into the corner. Complete miscommunication there. And was he trying to get Jackson again? And Jackson and Bailey were both over on that side.
Yeah, so on that play, one of those two guys walking off the field right now are going to go, okay, that doesn't help my chance. One of those guys ran the wrong route because they were both side by side, and the ball was thrown to the corner. One of the two of them had the corner route. Take a look. There they are down here. And see, stop it there, guys. Well, it could have been a double out. Maybe the quarterback made the decision, but clearly someone was supposed to run the corner there, and if they do, they're open.
Just 12 seconds remaining here in the first half of action. Troy Williams into the game here to take a couple of knees, and we'll head to halftime with the Bombers on top 3-0. And I know it's a completely different group of players, but here's the Bombers defense again. I know it's a completely different group of players, but they have not allowed a point in the first half against the Riders. It is Winnipeg 3-0 over Saskatchewan at Mosaic. Preseason action on a Tuesday night. Let's send it back to Farhan in the panel. Beautiful Tuesday night in Regina where the Riders trail 3-0. Let's send it down to Sarah Orlesky with the head coach of the Riders.
Craig, what stood out to you about that first half?
Well, it was a little sloppy. I think guys are still trying to get the feel. The wind's an issue, but the main thing is we just got to take care of the ball. We turned it over a couple of times. Defense has done a good job of keeping us in the game, but we're just got to do a better job of taking care of the ball on offense.
When you look at it on the ground game, you saw a couple of nice bursts from a couple of your backs that stand out to you?
Yeah. I thought the backs played well, and I think our O-line's blocking fairly well in the run game. We just got to get into a little bit of a rhythm. Hopefully we'll do that in the second half.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Interesting spot for coaches because you're going to be asked about your overall team play, but in a game like this, you're kind of evaluating a bunch of individuals, right?
Yeah, and I asked him that yesterday, Coach Dickinson, and he said, yeah, you always want to win. I mean, you're trying to build that culture, the winning culture. So you always want to win, but not in these games at the expense, and this is exactly how he said it, not in these games at the expense of evaluating the players on the field. Because they're young guys, we got to evaluate them. That's why Mike O'Shea went for it on 3rd down inside the 10.
3 times.
3 times. Yeah. I mean, because he would never do that in the regular season, or very seldom. You have to be a real special circumstance, and you make decisions like that because you want to get more reps so you can evaluate.
Leggio will kick it away to get us started. This will be taken over the head of Pope. He bobbled one earlier that ended up being a turnover, and this one will slide into the end zone. So a couple of balls have come in the direction of Troymaine Pope.
Yeah, he needs a big one. He needs a big play. I mean, you know, if you're just looking at one game, here comes another new quarterback in Troy Williams out of Utah. His turn at the controls.
Had a couple of games played in 2019 in Edmonton. Was 1 of 3 for 15 yards. Had an interception in that stint. 27 years old, 6'2", 208. And now he gets a crack at it. Dolagala, Mason Fine already getting in some work. See if those guys factor back in. Williams is going to turn. He's in a little bit of trouble, but gets that away.
Wow.
And it will be complete. Almost a pickup of 8 yards on the pass from Williams.
Talk about changing your arm angle to get this ball out. I mean, it looked like he was throwing around the pass rush. Kind of hesitated a second and then thread the needle on a real short throw. It was trying to pull the defense one direction, then come back to the wide side of the field.
Riley Bursma with the catch.
Oh.
Williams' turn. Running back wasn't there. He's going to keep it and pushes ahead, and that's not how they drew it up, but they got enough yards for a first down.
Troymaine Pope is having some struggles. I mean, I think he was in the backfield there, if I'm not mistaken.
Tough return game for him as well. Looking to redeem himself here in the second half. Williams, completion.
It's funny, and I'm not cutting anybody, obviously, but it really will declare itself. You know, I mean, many times coaches will tell the players, listen, it's not us making the decisions. You will make them for us.
Fair enough.
Pope needs some big plays right now.
Bruno LaBelle with that last catch. 2nd and 4 on the 51. They hand it off to Pope, and he has nowhere to go on that one. Will take the loss.
You mentioned the Bomber defense, though, Dustin, and I want to make that point too, because back-to-back champions have done a few things very well. They've had balance in their offense, a dominating, smothering defense, a defense that barely allows 13.4 points per game allowed.
It was a historic defense last year.
For the Bomber defense. Richie Hall back at the helm of that defense. A lot of the stars back, not dressed tonight. Of course, Adam Bighill, the two bookends, and Jeff Cote Jefferson.
3rd and 7. Williams went to throw it, and it looked like it just slipped out of his hand. He got back on it at the end, but that'll be the Bombers' ball. Turnover on downs as Williams went to throw this ball, and I think it just slipped right out of his hand. The most talented home cooks return for a shot at redemption on an all-new MasterChef Back to Win Wednesday 8-9 Mountain, only on CTV. Set your PVR. I'll tell you, if there was a contest for making scrambled eggs, I'd be a contender, Suits. Outside of that, there's not a lot going on for me in the kitchen, but I can scramble a mean egg.
Do you have a secret sauce? Is there a secret sauce?
A little bit of butter, I guess. Does that count? Does that count? It's not.
You're not supposed to give away your secret sauce.
Here I am dropping my recipes in the preseason. That's a playoff thing.
It's no longer a secret sauce.
Drew Brown back in the game, hands this one off, and that is a big gain all the way down out to the 20. Greg McKay getting an opportunity. We saw Shane Simpson. We saw Kyle Borsa. Here's Greg McCray, and that's a nice pickup.
University of Central Florida. Nice little cut to the outside, and that's the key in those jump cuts to get outside, is to do them full speed so that you can outrun some angles. And Greg McCray out to a good start with his reps.
6.45 yards per carry at UCF. First all time in school history. They're going to go back to him again. Nice little cut.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see that one? That was quick. Got about 7 yards out of it.
Good vision. Real good vision there. Head up, eyes up. Looked like the hole was initially blocked up, but watch the vision there, and then that cut right to daylight. Real nice. Protect the ball once you feel first contact. Back-to-back nice plays from McCray.
2nd and 3. Ball on the Rider 13. McCray standing next to Brown. 3 receivers to the right for Brown. Looks there first. Now he's going to keep it right up the gut. Brown towards the end zone, and he stopped in his tracks at the 2. He went for it, but they got there just in time. That's former University of Alberta Golden Bear Jaden Dalkey.
Yeah, Dalkey's coming up, and Drew Brown thought about the goal line. He was so close, and then there was indecision, and indecision is going to get you hit because he doesn't hook slide in time. And there's been a mandate come down from the officials and the head of officials and Darren Hackwood to make sure that if you're a quarterback that's going to hook slide, you've got to do it early or you're not going to get the call.
Dalkey, a 6th-round pick in the 2022 draft. Here's Brown on the 2, up under center. A quarterback keeper flags, though, as he is stopped short. But there were multiple flags on both sides of the field on that 1st and 2 play.
Offside. Defensive line, Saskatchewan. Half the distance to the goal. Still first down.
Well, usually I don't want to pin it on anybody, but usually one of those interior guys goes down, puts the hand down in the turf first, and then everybody lines up from there. See a foot over.
Right, Sunderland's foot might have been over, eh?
Yeah. But he said the whole line was.
Brown will try it again. Drew Brown pushing ahead, looking for the end zone. Does he have it? Yes. Touchdown Bombers. Drew Brown on the quarterback keeper, and Winnipeg finally finds that end zone.
So in the competition, because this is about evaluation, right? In the competition between Drew Brown and Dakota Prukop, some good plays from both. But I think as far as productivity, if you go back to the first drive, it was a 10-player 61 yards by Drew Brown. Took 5 minutes and 23 seconds. They didn't get any points out of that drive because they went for it on 3rd down, didn't get it. That was a 5-play 44-yard drive that ends in a touchdown. And Prukop will come and hold for the extra point. But a couple of nice plays from Prukop, but I would say the edge right now is definitely Drew Brown.
Mortada out for the extra points and an 11-point lead. And that one straight down the middle. Drew Brown on a quarterback sneak, pushing it into the end zone, letting Eric Lofton lead the celebration. Well, the Bombers have moved the ball pretty well so far, and this time they finally finished it.
Craig McCray got this drive going. It was nice run off the right side. He followed that up with another one up the middle. Nice cut to get a 2nd and manageable. Drew Brown on the quarterback draw takes a hit here. And then on his 2nd try, finishes the drive, which went 5 plays, 44 yards, 2 minutes, 30 seconds for the first major of this preseason game.
It was a 24-yard carry by McCray to start that drive, finished by Brown. Adele on the return. Stumbles his way out to about the 32, and a flag goes at the end. Here's a look at Brown back in the first half of this football game.
Really liked his first drive. This is the first play of the game where he gets outside, keeps his eyes up, finds a receiver. Nice throw over the middle. In fact, back-to-back on 2nd down. That dig route into traffic in the middle. Very accurate on those throws. Couple of runs mixed in. So you take that drive, you take that last drive that was, aided by his tailback, obviously, with 2 big runs, but got the edge.
Let me ask you this, as far as an evaluation perspective goes. He's 5 of 12 in this game.
Right.
So
numbers don't.
Yeah, you're evaluating the player, but then you're probably evaluating each of those small little plays that he does well,
number
right?
96. Unnecessary roughness, Winnipeg, number 45. First down.
That's exactly right. And what happens is you look at the first drive, he was 4 or 5 on that first
really
drive.
good.
Looked real sharp running the offense, and probably scripted the first series, and then got some problems. But if you go back and you look at the next couple of drives in the first quarter for Drew Brown, I'm sure Buck Pierce will look and say, well, there was a drop. That's not on him. Or there was a missed assignment in the block. That's not on him.
They'll hand this off to Cooper, and Shaq Cooper getting a touch and a pretty good pickup on first down that time, taking the handoff.
And Dakota Prukop's certainly not out of this competition over there in Winnipeg either. He's 3 of 7, 51 yards, but I think he's almost at 50 yards rushing.
2nd and 1. And this will be pushed ahead, and that'll be enough for a first down for the Riders, trying to get something offensively.
What was your thoughts on the hash marks moving in a little bit tighter? Because all kinds of talk in the offseason about that.
You know what? I thought when I first came in here today, I'd look and I'd go, oh my goodness, look at the hash marks. But I sat here doing some work and getting set up, and I looked down, I was like, oh yeah, hash marks a little bit tighter.
See 'em, yeah.
I am interested. I mean, you've laid out a good job on the passing game. What about the running game? Like, how much does that impact things?
Well, I just think it can put you. Let's put it this way: they're on the hash mark right now.
Yep.
The will linebacker, the short side linebacker, might have to become a different athlete. And again, I'm not trying to cut anybody that's played will linebacker, but you're in more space now as a will linebacker. So let's say teams decide to adjust to that, and on this weak side, they put a will linebacker in there.
Offside, Winnipeg, number 91. 5-yard penalty, first down.
That's not really a linebacker, he's sort of a DB. We've seen the DB play the strong side linebacker, a ton, because he's got to cover slot backs in trips formations, 3 receivers, 4 receivers to the field. But you get a smaller linebacker out there, now you will see more run off the weak side.
Heading over that way, crashing bang a little bit.
See if those littler guys, smaller guys, can come up and stop the run.
Williams will hand it off. And they'll get about 2 or 3 yards on this carry, about half of what they needed, as it was a 1st and 5 situation after the penalty. And Cooper.
The other thing, Dustin, and we're going real rogue here, I think, our producer, but John Hines is in the truck going, now where are they going?
Get back on track.
But that short side of the field is still the short side, or the boundary side. We're still going to call it that, even though it's wider now than it's ever been. And it's this side over here. The corner can no longer cheat in a zone defense, and the offenses are going to pick that up, and the corner route becomes more available and almost easier to throw.
It'll be a first down on the carry, but there is a flag at midfield. Some hard yards there from Shaq Cooper.
Remember those Ricky Ray dimes?
Yeah, he had a few of them.
Now, he could throw the corner route if you put him in a phone booth. He'd still complete the corner route.
No end. Saskatchewan. 5-yard penalty. Repeat. 2nd down.
Actually, there's no longer any phone booths, but but that short side now being 4 yards wider. The corners in zone looks used to be able to cheat underneath that corner. They could have their man up front, like 10 yards from the line of scrimmage.
Have him covered already.
He's covered. Yeah. But as the ball gets ready to get thrown, he falls under that corner because it was so close to him. 8 yards, 10 yards, he can make up that room.
2nd and 8 for Williams, right over the middle, and that should just be enough for a first down. Looks like he got it to number 87, Jester Way.
So, I think the potential is there. I'm in a wait-and-see mode.
How long will you wait before you kind of say, oh, yeah, this is working, or this is different? Or?
You still got to throw and catch it.
Yeah.
You still got to block. You still got to throw and catch it. You still got to cross the goal line. That hasn't changed. So let's see how much of a difference it makes.
Williams rolling to his right, throwing to his right, has a completion. And, boy, a couple of nice moves there by Riley Boersma. Made a couple of Bombers miss and got probably a good 7-8 yards after the catch.
Former University of Regina Rams are making some plays.
8th round pick, moving pretty well here.
Yeah, Boersma, nice move in the open field. I saw him earlier with a couple of blocks that were away from the ball, so getting involved there, those will be check marks when the coaches take a look. And we've seen on the other side for the Bombers, Kyle Borsa, also former Ram.
And if you need a hair guy on the team, Boersma might make it. They're going to hand it off to Cooper. And a little bit of a stutter step, and then he pushes ahead, and he's close to another first down. Might come up just a bit shy. No, they're going to give it to him.
And keep in mind now that the Riders have another game, and we'll see, I'm sure, a lot of the starters in Vancouver on Friday night. This is it for the preseason for Winnipeg.
Williams pushing ahead. And turned his back and used it to guard the ball, protect the ball a little bit, and looked like he got enough for a first down. So Williams putting a little something together here.
Yep.
That last possession ended with him going to throw the ball and having it pop out of his hand. So he's got to feel pretty good about how he settled back in here.
Well, and the other part of the evaluation in that scenario is for Williams is he faced adversity, made a mistake all by himself. He's been able to at this point shake it off and put a drive together and see if he can finish it. But that's something that the coaches look for every player.
Riders haven't spent a lot of time on this side of the field. We'll see what they can do with it here. Williams with some time this time over the middle, and the catch is made. That's a big pop, but Jesterway was able to hang on again. It's Malcolm Thompson who got him.
And a good throw too, because it gave him a chance. It gave Way a chance to catch it low and brace himself for impact. If that ball is high and he has to reach up for it, he exposes the inside of his ribs there. That's an even harder hit on him.
Ball on the Bomber 27. 1st and 10 for Troy Williams. Cooper will slide back in to the right of his quarterback. Williams over the middle again, and that one was laid out there. Boersma tried to get a hand on it. He did get a hand on it, but couldn't hang on. First incompletion for Williams in this game.
Malik Clements closed quickly there and just maybe changed Boersma's mind. That's the first incompletion of this drive for Troy Williams. He was 5 for 5 before that throw.
Wentz had a sack in the first preseason game. 7 games last year with Edmonton. Williams, pressure in his face, had to get rid of that one and throws it incomplete, looking towards the end zone, but the Bombers were closing quickly on him that time.
Yeah, they brought in some receiver help too to block, to try and sort of max protect there on a deep throw from Troy Williams, but a decent drive, field goal range, and a chance to get on the board for the Riders.
Henry Neal, 3rd round global draft pick in 2021. 3 years indoor and arena league. Works from the left hash, tightened up just a little bit.
It helps the kickers too. Not this time.
And he misses it. Nice work, Glenn. Mario Houston will bring it back.
It should help the kickers.
Stays on his feet and gets taken down at around the 11.
Official first jinx of the year.
Gonna have a chat with Cody Fajardo with Sarah Orleski coming up. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone. It only took Cody Fajardo 28 starts to win 20 games. Quickest to ever do it with the Riders. He's with our Sarah Orleski.
Thank you, Dustin. Cody, when you look at this camp so far, what has stood out to you most?
The veteran leadership we have on this team. You know, from day one, guys knew what the common goal was, is that's to win the Grey Cup, and I'm really proud of the way the veterans took the young guys under their wing. Quarterback-wise, it was the most efficient camp I've ever been a part of. All these young guys have been able to throw it and been very efficient, so it's great competition, and I love it, and it keeps everybody on their toes.
What's your interaction been like with them throughout this game as they look to compete to be your backup?
Absolutely. I got the iPad on the sideline, just talking over some coverages, talking through some plays, and just kind of get them comfortable. You know, anytime you're in a game atmosphere, I know for myself, I still get nervous to this day, so trying to settle the nerves down and just go out and play football and have some fun.
We're expecting to see obviously more veterans in Friday's preseason game. How much of the preseason game against the Lions would you like to play?
I would love to play the whole game, but you know, a half is what I'm hoping for. So it's just weird that we have these 2 games back to back, and obviously we want to be ready for the 18-game season, but got to get your work in, and so I'm excited. Just get back on the field. I feel like it's been forever.
Thanks so much. Great to see you again,
Thank
Cody.
you very much.
Always a great guy to talk to. And a big year for him.
Big year for Cody Fajardo. And, you know, when I think of that board and the fastest to 20 wins, that's pretty unique company. And we saw the names on that board, and we'll go back to it. But I'll point out, I'll ask you a quick trivia question when we see the board again. And here it comes right now, the fastest to 20 wins. And look at the other names on that board in Rider history, and what jumps out at you for 3 of the 4 of them.
I'm going to say championships.
That's right. That's right.
1 for 1 on trivia questions this year. Perfect. I was nervous.
Well, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And when you're back-to-back West Finals and you lose by 7 to the Bombers in 19 and then by 4 last year, it is a big year for Cody Fajardo in this offense and this football team, and the cup at home.
Coaching up some receivers on the sideline. The one thing that he has that nobody will deny, the qualities, like every quality that you want in a leader. Cody Fajardo has that, right? That's important for that position, especially here in this market.
Without a doubt. I mean, but he's also a dual threat. I mean, the guy can take off and beat you with his legs. You know, he struggled a little bit last year, to be perfectly honest, with the deep ball, but he's worked with Shaq Evans a ton. They had a great scrimmage, interlocking scrimmage on Saturday.
I heard that he didn't want to come into that game either.
Yeah, but apparently the chemistry between Cody Fajardo and Shaq Evans, not dressed tonight, which was missing last year, was there on display in that inter-squad game. So, you know, again, you got to get out and you got to do it on the field in game time, and you're going to face elements and ups and downs in the season, but big year for Cody Fajardo.
It's an offense that finished 7th in the league in points per game last year. And he just under 19.
And didn't have him all year either.
Yeah,
that's Duke Williams.
Made a big difference.
Yeah, that's Duke Williams, and he is re-signed and ready to go.
Having him from the beginning of the season will certainly make a big impact. Now on the return, Jeremiah Haydel, and he'll take it out to about the 47-48, and that is where the Riders will have it. They trail 11-0 here at home. Preseason action against the Bombers. Years, Friday night football.
One of the stars we watch many a night on Friday night football. We are celebrating 25 years. 1997 was the first. 53,000 passing yards from that guy working with the Bombers now. But you know, you won't meet a better individual. And Danny McManus had, I think, one of the quickest releases I've seen in pro football on either side of the board.
Really?
Yeah, and I one time asked him about it, and I said, Danny, your release, you get it out of your hands quick as I've seen anybody do it. And he said, yeah, I learned that when I was a kid, that if you're not holding the ball, they won't hit you.
Well, it worked out for a few thousand yards, I think.
Yeah, how about 50,000
I'd like
plus?
to add up all of the yards of every quarterback we saw in that graphic for Friday Night Football.
Yeah, and Damon Allen, by the way, said he wants to make a comeback with the hashes where they are. He was on that screen.
I saw he tweeted that, yeah. That's going to be a first down to wrap up the quarter. A young Glenn Suter broadcasting 25 years ago on Friday Night Football, too. So it's been exciting. 2.5 decades, no doubt about it. It's going to be a great year celebrating Friday Night Football every Friday night on TSN this year. We've got 1 quarter remaining here in Regina. It's the Bombers leading 11-0 through 3. 11-0, the Bombers lead the Riders through 3 quarters, and we talked a lot about tonight and preseason being about evaluations, and I don't care if it's about individual evaluations or not. Riders got to be sitting here going, we got to get something on the board, right, Glenn?
Well, yeah, I mean, you still want to win. As I said, you know, whether you're playing cards with your teammates on the flight to the game, you want to win those matches too. So these guys are rivals, Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. They want to win this game. They want to have a big 4th quarter. The Saskatchewan Roughriders want to try and fight back, but again, as Craig Dickinson said, at the expense of the evaluation process. So that's what's most important. The numbers really aren't in this game at all. But you just want to see guys that stand out either in a good way or a bad way, because either way they're declaring whether or not they're going to be on the team basically tomorrow, or probably there's one more preseason game for Saskatchewan. So
see some guys stick around a little bit longer there for the Bombers. This is it for preseason action. Lost to Edmonton already. Here's Fine, changes that arm angle, gets it away, and that'll be a completion, spinning and taking it inside the 45. Nice play there by Tevin Jones, who had a fumble earlier in the game, able to hang on to this one and do something with it.
Yeah, exactly. That's I guarantee you that one will help Devin Jones sleep tonight, because he's going to say, okay, with this one, after the fumble, now at least I don't have to worry that I might get that knock on the door. That's not fun. When you're in the dorms and you get that knock, and whoever's on the other side says, coach wants to see you, bring your playbook.
What's up, coach? It's got to be tough.
It is. And that's the toughest part for both these coaches, to be honest, for all the coaches at every level, because they're all good football players. They're working their butt off to try and make the squad, but some tough decisions have to be made. In fact, we'll get back to this when the Riders are on defense again, but boy, there's some tough decisions to be made at linebacker for that team.
Hickson thrown high, couldn't get it. 5'8". That one a little bit too high for him, but he's got 47 yards on 6 carries on the ground.
Yeah, Frankie Hickson, you talk about, this is a nice block. You got to be able to do the things away from the ball too to get on the team. For tailback, that's picking up blitz, but we've seen some nice runs, some good bursts, good vision, and again, impressing the coaching staff in preseason game 1 after not playing for how many days was it?
Almost 900, 892, yeah. I believe. And the first time we saw him, he was in there with Dolagala. Now he gets to play alongside Mason Fine. Fine near side, almost picked off. A lunging effort by Jamal Parker.
Okay, now I've seen this a little bit early, and this is the short side of the field, which is now longer. So we've shown you a couple of examples of how an offense can take advantage of that, but I've seen a couple of picks into the boundary in the preseason. That was almost another one, because that throw now on the out to the short side is a different angle for the quarterback. They're going to have to get used to that, or that might happen early in the season.
Just a little bit longer to get there, which means a little bit longer for a defensive player to make a play on it.
And not many outs are run from the short side back when the hash marks were back where they were.
Henry Neal from 46 yards gets the Riders on the board. They trail by 8 at home, preseason action against Winnipeg. The NBA Finals tip off Thursday with Game 1 as Steph Curry and the Warriors host Jason Tatum and the Celtics. Don't miss the action at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, only on TSN. Should be a heck of a series. Looking forward to those two teams colliding in the NBA Finals.
Tough decisions have to be made in the next week. For the Bombers, end of the preseason happens in 12:54, and Michael O'Shea and his crew will be in the meeting rooms evaluating every single play and player. And Saskatchewan has one more on Friday in Vancouver, and then, although may make a couple of those decisions after this one.
A return taken back to about the 33 home, forced out of bounds on that one.
And Jason Shivers, the defensive coordinator for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, has an interesting decision to make with Craig Dickinson, the head coach. They're not dressed tonight, none of them. But when you look at the linebackers and the lineup.
Too many players, Winnipeg. That penalty is declined. First down.
That's their projected starting linebacking core. And you notice there's 4 of them.
Yeah, there is.
There's 3 that in a 40 defense with 4 down linemen and 3 linebackers. There's 3 starting linebackers. That's an all-star group. Larry Dean with the Achilles last year. He is back and healthy again and looks great in camp. Darnell Sankey is covering and running down receivers in camp from what I've heard.
He was a monster last year.
Micah Tights had a huge year at that weak side linebacker. And Derek Moncrief is just a stud football player.
Here's a ball down the field. It's a deep shot, and it is complete. first touch of the evening for Phil Yor, and it goes for a major.
Yeah, and this goes right into that column for Prukop, because a couple of things here. First, he looks off the safety. He pulls the safety with his look to make sure he can't get anywhere near that deep ball. Double seams from the outside, and Prukop used a little bit of experience there. Composure to look off the safety, go backside to the weak side down the field for a big play.
And you talk about trying to make an impact. Phil Yor just did that. Leggio, extra point, good. Bombers on top, 18-3.
Vincent Dethier, the safety right here. Watch as he gets influence. You won't see Prukop. The seam route is going to be right here. And watch the safety flip his hips. Now he's going to drop it. Now he's going to be responsible to make the play on the. Hold it there, guys. He's going to make that play if he doesn't open his hips slightly this way. On the look from Prukop, he does, and then watch what happens. Tries to flip him back, gets tangled up, and goes down, and goodbye.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with Whop Phil Yor, according to his player profile page on the Bombers website, Whop is his nickname given to him by his father because he loved Whoppers from Burger King when he was a kid. True story.
Well, we've got the all-time name preseason game going on. We've got Christmas, we got Whop. What else we got?
A Lucky Jackson.
We got a yeah, I liked Prukop's composure there. Nice look off, freeze the safety, get them all tangled up. And then he's got an open receiver down the field.
You talked about decisions have to be made. Both these guys have done some things tonight that are going to make that very difficult.
There you go. I mean, Prukop just jumped up the ladder, didn't he?
This will be brought back up the near side of the field and wrapped up around the 31 is Shaq Cooper for the Riders, trying to find a way to make an impact.
Just watch Prukop here, and we'll try and freeze it right when he looks off the safety. See, he bent around and looked that way first. Now watch him get back in that pocket. Now he just launches it. But just before that snap, you saw on that first step backwards, he pulled him to the left. That's why the safety opened his hips, and then he got tangled and fell, and he has a wide open receiver down the field. That's how quick it can happen. But that's a step up for more of a veteran quarterback.
Fine with the completion to Jones. Jones kind of waited for things to develop, and it worked. He's got a first down and more. Devin Jones takes it outside his own 45, almost to the 50.
So if you add that and then you take the numbers, Dakota Prukop, he's now 4 of 8, 129 and a touchdown throw. Drew Brown, 6 of 14, 86. And you take the numbers and you look at it and you think, well, Prukop's won the day.
Yeah, 56 yards on the ground, yeah. But Drew Brown had a touchdown.
A couple of really good drives.
Fine with another completion. And this one to Tremaine Pope. And Pope's got it up to midfield, a pickup of about 6.
Yeah, some interesting performances from some guys in this game. I liked what Kyle Borsa did early on for the Bombers. Frankie Hickson, we showed you some nice highlights from him his day. It's been pretty pedestrian for Mason Fine to this point, but when you look at that scoreboard, that gives an indication there.
Fine looks to his left, steps up in the pocket, pressure, gets it away. Pope had it and dropped it. Would have been enough for a first down, and a tough day for Pope continues here with 10:21 remaining.
You will basically declare you're going to show the coaches you don't get many opportunities, and that's.
I mean, most of the time you got to make that catch, but trying to make a team in any team, and that's a tough one to have slip away from you. And
some struggles in the special teams in the return game.
They've given him opportunities tonight. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely.
Had a fair shake at it. Here's Fine. Pope stands to his right. And there to protect. Fine gets it away, and that'll be complete for a first down on third down as he guns it into Jacob Prahl.
Nice catch by Prahl on the sideline. I'm really interested. Saw a nice play by Keon Schaefer-Baker early in the first quarter. And that, I don't think we're going to see much more of him or Justin McInnis, but between Schaefer-Baker, Picton, and McInnis, and probably the newcomer Samuel Emelis he's in the mix as well because of a good training camp. Two of those receivers are going to start. Really nice catch by Emelis in the first half.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
There's Schaefer-Baker and McInnis.
Decisions will have to be made. We'll probably get a little bit of a further evaluation of that on Friday in Vancouver. This will be handed off again. Pope again pushing ahead. Had the carry on first down. Gets it again here on second down for about half of what they needed. And it'll be 3rd and 5 for the Riders.
These guys have a chance to have a big time year. So, I mean, really, you look at Justin McInnis, again, a first-round draft pick back in 19, and we're catching up in the draft pick discussion. He was 6th overall.
That's some big time draft capital right there.
Yeah. And then Schaefer-Baker, seen the athleticism from him last year and in one play this year in the first quarter.
An opportunity to replace Lenius, who had 4 touchdowns last season, which led the receiving corps on this team.
How about that little play?
As we were talking about it,
there you go.
There's a 7th overall pick in the 2022 draft, Samuel Emelis, 21 yards.
Yeah, so 7th overall, 6th overall, they're out there battling for a position, and again, some great athletic speed and route running from Emelis.
Mason Fine putting together a little bit of a drive here for the Riders. Has time, a ton of time over the middle. He's got another completion, and that'll go for another first down as he gunned that in there to Lewis. Wesley Lewis. He'd been with Ottawa for a few years.
Wesley Lewis, 3 receivers to the field, so basically a balanced set from the hash mark. Again, more balanced field this year, and took a hit. Looked like he grabbed his shoulder, but he looks like he's okay.
Ball on the 10. Fine with time, almost picked off at the goal line.
See Mason Fine throw that? He threw that knowing that it was probably not the right decision.
Right away he knew it.
Yeah, he was throwing it and backing away from the throw, almost like he regretted it the moment he left his hands. He was like, oh, I don't know. Hopping back there. When the quarterbacks start hopping, that's when they're a little anxious that there's too many defenders too close.
Willie Clements had a good look at that one. Broke it up. 4 receivers to the left here for Fine. Goes to the right. Has a completion to the end zone. No. Forced out of bounds at about the 2 for Tremaine Pope.
So this is the short side of the field, which is now longer. And watch the room now that the weak side linebacker has to cover. They used to be out here. Now he's 4 or 5 yards inside. Watch how much harder it is for him to get to that route. That's where more offense can be generated.
3rd and goal from the 2 for Fine. Looking to cash in here. To his left first, towards the corner, up for grabs, and it is hauled in. What a catch. Jester Way goes up and gets it.
Couple catches now for Way. I thought he turned the wrong way.
Winnipeg, number 48. The penalty is declined. Touchdown.
But he was tracking the ball because he's running the corner route, and Mason Fine's throwing it up, getting a little air under it, and leading him to it. I thought he turned the wrong way. It looked like he was supposed to turn over and look over his left shoulder. But it didn't matter. Ripped it out of the air. Nice catch.
Working there against Javon Jackson. And Way comes away with it. He's been targeted 4 times. That's the 2nd most on the team. 3 catches and the touchdown. An 11-play, 78-yard drive that took 5.5 minutes. And the Riders get something cooking here offensively. Midway through the fourth quarter, finished into the hands of Jester Way out of Pittsburgh. Here in Regina, making plays.
Take a look at this corner route from Way, and I'll show you what I mean about looking over the wrong shoulder, but making up for it athletically. Here comes the corner route. Now stop it there, and you see that's an inside look coming this way, when really he should be flopped around, and the ball gets thrown there. He's looking over the opposite shoulder and runs underneath it, but he makes up for the mistake of looking inside with just a great catch to pluck it out of the air.
That kick taken inside the 10, run all the way back out to about the 34. Mason Fine on that drive, 7 of 9 for 73 yards.
He's laughing. He's laughing right now. Going, yeah, I looked the wrong way. It didn't matter.
Boy. Still made a play on it.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Yep. Went out and got it.
Come on, man.
Jester Way has them on the board. Spent some time south of the border. Washington, Chicago, Houston, and now here in the end zone with the Riders.
Those two guys belong.
Yeah, I think so. They don't have to worry about their jobs.
Whoa!
High snap. Prokop's got to hustle back on this one. He's going to pick it up, then he's hammered and taken down. Helmet comes flying off. I thought that might have been the ball popping loose. Good news, his head isn't in it. Well, that was a sloppy start to the drive.
Wondering, was he tackled in the end zone?
Yeah, high snap.
And hot. So picked it out. Okay, picked it up at the 5, pulled back down, and it'll go back to the. Look where they're marking this. They're marking it on the 5, where his first contact. Covered there, and then yeah, ripped down. They're saying on the recovery, forward progress was the 5.
Nicholas Daly was the first one there. Made sure he could go nowhere after picking up that ball. 2nd and 38. He's going to send it down the field. And that one is held onto on the far side. Antonio Nunn making a play, his first of the game.
They're using these corner routes. Oh, that's an accurate throw. Accurate throw to give them some room to punt this ball away and give their defense a chance. Yeah.
29 will usually get you a first down. Not on that one with 38 yards needed. And now Mortada is going to kick it away. And that'll be taken cleanly at the 31. And now they're going to try to kick it all the way to the outside of the field. Vincent Devier, a nice cutback. He's going to take it down inside the 30 to a huge cheer from his sideline and the crowd here at Mosaic.
Vincent Devier was the safety. They got beat deep. And I love in the preseason when a young kid bounces back from a mistake and makes a big play. I mean, this is what this game is all about. It's fighting through adversity. It's coming back from a bad play. It's understanding that you got to let it go, have a short memory, and come back and do something special. It's a nice run on the return. Get him back in the good books.
52-yard return for Detier. And now less than 4 minutes on the clock, but the Riders in business. Bolagala has a completion to Boersma.
So hang on a second, because it is the preseason. And that was 17, but that was a different 17. And Jonathan Johnson out of Missouri.
17s.
Yes, yes. And when he flashed by, he was running pretty fast too, I have to say. But he's running by and went, that's 17, that's the safety that got beat deep when he got tangled up and fell. And and it wasn't. But both these teams have doubled up in numbers. There was
134 players.
134 players that are dressed.
There's
the safety.
Yeah, we got 17s on both sides of the ball.
Now he's just hoping that the coaches make the same mistake I did.
yeah, that's right. I might have just made the team.
Yeah.
Dolegala, completion, touchdown, far side of the field. Man, what a pass by Dolegala, and it's duly Aristilled, who people have been saying good things about. Aristilled is able to get his hands on that one.
And when I asked Coach Dickinson, tell me one receiver that's standing out to you, that's the guy he mentioned, Dooley Aristilled. Back in his days in Florida in high school, Aristill's quarterback was Lamar Jackson, and that was quite the 1-2 punch between he and Aristilled. Said he's had a great camp. He's a big play guy down the field, 6'4", 215 pounds. He said, boy, he's been impressive. So they're looking for big things in these 2 preseason games. That's a good start.
Mason Fine leads a touchdown drive. Now Jake Dolegala does it as well. Going for 2 in a tie to the corner, and that one's going to fall incomplete.
That was great coverage. That was Jamal Parker, I believe. Although there might be 245s. Hang on.
There probably is, Glenn. There probably is.
Hang on.
Time football is back. CFL regular season kicks off on June 9th with an action-packed schedule rolling into the weekend. Coverage begins on Thursday with the Alouettes versus the Stampeders at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, exclusively on TSN.
Saskatchewan challenged the previous play for pass interference. After review, the ruling on the field stands.
Yeah, I love the defense. I just saw Jamal Parker, and I double-checked, and it is Parker. Watch his feet. Watch how he stays square. He's inside of 5 yards. Yes, he's going to get contact. Ball's not in the air now, but that's just a great jam. And just after the jam, the ball gets thrown, and Aristilled can't get there. That's just outstanding press coverage from Jamal Parker out of Kent State. Now I've triple-checked it.
Parker's made some plays in this game.
Yes, he has.
Scooped up that ball on special teams, batted one down that he almost picked off, and now makes a nice play there. So a couple of check marks for Parker. Now this will be brought back by Parker. Takes it almost all the way back up to the 40 with 2:43 on the clock.
And just in case you're wondering, there is no overtime in the preseason. I know 2 is.
I think it's funny you mentioned that because I was wondering.
Yeah. Or you got somewhere to go or something?
No, I got nowhere to go. It's fine. A little more preseason football. We all need reps.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Especially if you got double numbers up there.
Nothing like prepping for a preseason game. Now they're going to hand it off underneath. There's a flag back around the 30 as they got it to Lucky Jackson. First time we've mentioned him today outside of talking about them having a guy named Lucky again. But this one looks like it's probably a hold here.
Interesting strategy.
Holding Winnipeg, number 52. It's 10-yard penalty. Remains first down.
You don't see it all the time from head coaches where Mike O'Shea has decided that Zach Collaros will not take a snap in the preseason. I've seen it before. Mark Trestman didn't give Anthony Calvillo many reps, if any, in preseason games, and won back-to-back championships as well. And I guess at the end of the day, if you win 2 in a row, with a missed season in between, but you win 2 in a row, you do whatever you want.
Pretty much. And they didn't have one last year, and it worked out okay. it probably comes down maybe a little bit to what the player wants to do. Cody Fajardo said he'd like to play the entire game on Friday. Dickinson's probably not going to allow that, but
yeah, and I'm sure Zach Collaros talked to Coach O'Shea, and I'm sure he was a big part of the decision making as to whether or not they would have him play. But I like it. I mean, first of all, Zach's a veteran. The break is not going to bother him at all.
How many reps has he taken?
Yeah,
right?
he will be 100% prepared, and there's no need putting him out there and then he follows through on a throw, hits the top of a helmet. You know, his thumb's hurt for the first 6 weeks of the season. Yeah, I mean, those are the things you're trying to avoid. You know you got a pro that's going to be ready.
It can't happen if they're not out there, right? We can totally eliminate any sort of possibility of an injury.
And you know, when you have a younger guy, then you may want to say, look, he just feels more comfortable with a few reps
Offside.
in the preseason just
Saskatchewan
to get the game
defensive
speed.
line. It's 5-yard penalty, first down.
But I think when you got a pro like Zach, an MOP, you've got a head coach that has trusted him to lead the team to 2 championships in a row. Yeah, he can sit at home. He'll be just fine for week 1 of the regular season. And a lot of guys are in this second game. I mean, Willie Jefferson, Adam Bighill, Jackson Jeffcoat. I mean, the list is, well, basically the majority of the starters. There's, what have we had? A handful, maybe 2. Rasheed Bailey. The list almost stops there, doesn't it?
They'll be ready for week 1 against Ottawa. Where's that ball? Never came out cleanly, barely came out at all. Prokop's got it, he's on the run, and that pass is incomplete.
This is the other thing. If you're going to play Zach Collaros in this game, the second preseason game, then you have to have the entire starting offensive line in front of him.
Yeah, you're not throwing him out there with...
Exactly, because you're not going to put him out there with a young center who's going to do what he's done to Prukop a couple of times now with errant snaps that have put him in harm's way because he's chasing around trying to pick the ball up off the turf.
When you're building a team, if you mentioned it earlier in the broadcast, didn't come back around to it. You mentioned, good team guy. When you're building a professional football team, how much do you look to having the good team guys around as opposed to the guys who might not be a good team guy but are a better football player? How do you manage that as you put together a roster?
Yeah, I think it's balancing, but I've said for years and years, and I truly believe it, that at this level, when you get to the pro level, they're all good.
Yeah.
Every single player out here is world class. Seriously. And when you have all of those guys that are all good players from their schools, then what's the difference between winning and losing?
How the team comes together?
How the team comes together, the chemistry in the room. Do you care more about the guy beside you in the locker room than you do yourself? And that's what Mike O'Shea has built in Winnipeg. That's why guys want to play there, and that's why they're back-to-back championships. I believe it's the biggest piece of that pie if you had a pie graph.
So many times he told us last year, the culture just kind of takes care of itself here.
Yeah, the players,
right?
the players
look out.
Yeah, it'll be organic if you put the right players in the room together with the right leadership group. And Zach is the leader of that, and I think Craig Dickinson's got the same thing. You heard Cody Fajardo talk to Sarah on the sideline, and that was the first thing he mentioned. We've got a great leadership group in our locker room. This is going to be a heck of a CFL season.
Prukop towards the end zone, laying out for it and bringing it home. Come on, what a play. Tavares Harrison. First play he's made tonight, and it's a beauty.
And Prukop has battled back, hasn't he? After Drew Brown got off to a pretty good start to this game and looked like he was edging out Prukop as far as this competition goes. And again, this is very unofficial grading system from Dustin and I, but Prukop has made some plays, and he's had to struggle with some bad snaps, some running of the football, some broken down assignment issues. He's got the Bombers back on top. Well, they were on top, but on top by 2 scores.
Prukop 7 of 12 for 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 carries for 74 yards, a long of 35. And he needed this after throwing a couple of interceptions in their first preseason game. Prukop has come back and responded tonight.
Corners can't play facing this way and looking at the quarterback on the short side any longer. They've got to play straight up. They've got to take inside position. And it's going to open up some more routes on the boundary side.
Now it's Matt Watson, who is wearing the same 77 as Boersma, who's playing tonight, just to clarify that.
So Boersma didn't switch and
No,
play.
he didn't.
Okay.
It's easy to tell. Boersma's got that hair.
Yeah.
Right? Watson doesn't have that hair.
I'm on page 2 of the roster right now.
Yeah.
I'm still searching. Nice route and catch.
Well, for Harrison, right? First time we mentioned him tonight, and if you only put one thing on film tonight,
And
how's
that's
that
it.
catch? Yeah.
There you go. Again, there's spots to be filled in the Bomber receiving corps. Keeping in mind that some pretty good ones back home, too.
We talked about it. They dressed, what, 18 DBs tonight?
Yeah.
Similar strategy last year, and it led to Dietrich Nichols and DeAndre Elford. So maybe they find another guy or two this year. This will be taken
Maybe Parker
at the 11. Yeah, he's had a game. Here's Cooper. He's going to spin his way out of bounds at about the 39. Yeah, I mean, Parker would be a guy that's had a game. We talked about him tonight a little bit, right?
It'll be interesting to see, where Brandon Alexander is in his rehab and return. I mean, he's a real glue guy in the secondary at that safety spot, all-star. But back home is Dietrich Nichols, Winston Rose, who's a little bit nicked, Nick Taylor. So, yeah, I mean, when you're dressing 18 DBs for a preseason game number 2, you're looking to find a couple
You're looking
guys.
at DBs,
Yeah.
yep. Dolagala remains in the game. And looks he's got close to another first down. This one to Wesley Lewis. And they'll give him the first down with 68 seconds on the clock here, preseason action. Started slow, but we've had a few fireworks here in the second half. No doubt about that. 4 receivers to the right here for Dolagala. Nice footwork here to open himself up. High throw, and it's going to be intercepted at the 35, and that'll be brought back the other way over the 50 and eventually taken down. So Dolagala did a good job opening himself up and then throws it into the arms of Jackson. That's Javon Jackson making the play.
Georgia Southern. Yeah, overthrow. Overthrow gets you in trouble.
This is good timing because I was just going to ask you what you thought of Dolagala so far here, getting a look at him tonight.
A couple of throws in that last series. I like the touchdown throw in the out, but that was well overthrown, and Jackson makes a nice catch to come up with another turnover. And there's been a few in this game, if I remember correctly.
Well, Lewis loaded to go up and try to get that one early. He saw it coming in high, and he went up, but there was no chance he was getting to that ball. Borsa taken down for a loss here.
What's interesting too, Dustin, is we've seen some pretty nice defensive line play from some young guys in Saskatchewan, and defensive plays from the interior in Winnipeg as well. So it's hard to track all of that in a preseason game with 132 players on the field, but the coaches certainly will notice. And Craig Dickinson, there's Charleston Hughes, not dressed tonight for Saskatchewan. They have to replace Ed Gainey, Luchez Purifoy, Micah Johnson, and Jonathan Woodard in their defense.
That's some big names. I mean, those guys all had really good seasons last year.
Yeah, but I showed you that linebacking core.
Yeah, they've done a decent job replacing the linebackers.
And can Jason Shivers go to a 30? Now, a 30 defense, if you're a football guy and you're a coach or a player, you know what that means. But for those who don't, it's 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers. And with the hash mark change, does it make even some more sense to run a 30 front with 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers that can move and cover that ground?
Those 4 linebackers he has, that's the personnel to do something like that, right?
Exactly.
It's a conversation that will continue when it comes to the Riders Glenn and I will have that broadcast for you in Vancouver on Friday night. Preseason action, jobs to be earned. I think a few guys made a good impact here tonight.
And after I called the wrong guy at number 17, am I on the bubble?
That's on me. That's on me.
I think I'm on the bubble.
Riders, Bombers, preseason action for Winnipeg. This is it. You'll next see them week 1 of the regular season for the Riders. Another opportunity to evaluate, and obviously some few storylines that'll be discussed here in Regina throughout the week. It'll be a quick turnaround. Friday night action for the Riders against the Lions in BC. The final here tonight, 25-16. Winnipeg beats the Riders again. Let's send it to SportsCenter.